2 Kings chapter 11. Now when Athaliah the mother of Ahaziah saw that her son was dead, she arose and destroyed all the royal offspring. But Jehasheba, the daughter of King Joram, sister of Ahaziah, took Joash the son of Ahaziah, and stole him away from among the king's sons who were slain, even him and his nurse, and put them in the bedroom, and they hid him from Athaliah, so that he was not slain. He was with her hidden in Yahweh's house 6 years, while Athaliah reigned over the land. In the 7th year Jehoiada sent and fetched the captains over hundreds of the Kerites and of the guard, and brought them to him into Yahweh's house, and he made a covenant with them, and made a covenant with them in Yahweh's house, and showed them the king's son. He commanded them, saying, This is what you must do. A third of you who come in on the Sabbath shall be keepers of the watch of the king's house. A third of you shall be at the gate, sir, and a third of you at the gate behind the guard. So you shall keep the watch of the house, and be a barrier. The 2 companies of you, even all who go out on the Sabbath, shall keep the watch of Yahweh's house around the king. You shall surround the king, every man with his weapons in his hand, and he who comes within the ranks, let him be slain. Be with the king when he goes out, and when he comes in. The captains over hundreds did according to all that Jehoiada the priest commanded, and they each took his men. Those who were to come in on the Sabbath with those who were to go out on the Sabbath, and came to Jehoiada the priest. The priest delivered to the captains over hundreds the spears and shields that had been King David's, which were in Yahweh's house. The guard stood, every man with his weapons in his hand, from the right side of the house to the left side of the house, along by the altar in the house, around the king. Then he brought out the king's son, and put the crown on him, and gave him the covenant, and they made him king and anointed him. And they clapped their hands, and said, Long live the king! When Athaliah heard the noise of the guard and of the people, she came to the people into Yahweh's house. And she looked, and behold, the king stood by the pillar, as the tradition was, with the captains and the trumpets by the king, and all the people of the land rejoiced, and blew trumpets. Then Athaliah tore her clothes, and cried, Treason, treason. Jehoiada the priest commanded the captains of hundreds who were set over the army, and said to them, Bring her out between the ranks, kill anyone who follows her with the sword. For the priest said, Don't let her be slain in Yahweh's house. So they seized her, and she went by the way of the horses' entry to the king's house, and she was slain there. Jehoiada made a covenant between Yahweh and the king and the people, that they should be Yahweh's people, also between the king and the people. All the people of the land went to the house of Baal, and broke it down. He broke his altars and his images in pieces thoroughly, and killed Man, the priest of Baal, before the altars. The priest appointed officers over Yahweh's house. He took the captains over hundreds, and the Kerites, and the guard, and all the people of the land, and they brought down the king from Yahweh's house, and came by the way of the gate of the guard to the king's house. He sat on the throne of the kings. So all the people of the land rejoiced, and the city was quiet. They had slain Athaliah with the sword at the king's house. Jehoash was 7 years old when he began to reign. Chapter 12. Jehoash began to reign in the 7th year of Jehu, and he reigned 40 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Zibiah of Beersheba. Jehoash did that which was right in Yahweh's eyes all his days, in which Jehoiada the priest instructed him. However, the high places were not taken away. The people still sacrificed and burned incense in the high places. Jehoash said to the priests, All the money of the holy things that is brought into Yahweh's house, in current money, the money of the people for whom each man is evaluated, and all the money that it comes into any man's heart to bring into Yahweh's house, let the priests take it to them, each man from his donor, and they shall repair the damage to the house, wherever any damage is found. But it was so, that in the 23rd year of King Jehoash the priests had not repaired the damage to the house. Then King Jehoash called for Jehoiada the priest, and for the other priests, and said to them, Why aren't you repairing the damage to the house? Now therefore take no more money from your treasurers, but deliver it for repair of the damage to the house. The priests consented that they should take no more money from the people, and not repair the damage to the house. But Jehoiada the priest took a chest, and bored a hole in its lid, and set it beside the altar, on the right side as one comes into Yahweh's house. And the priests who kept the threshold put all the money that was brought into Yahweh's house into it. When they saw that there was much money in the chest, the king's scribe and the high priest came up, and they put it in bags and counted the money that was found in Yahweh's house. They gave the money that was weighed out into the hands of those who did the work and had the oversight of Yahweh's house, and they paid it out to the carpenters and the builders who worked on Yahweh's house, and to the masons and the stone cutters, and for buying timber and cut stone to repair the damage to Yahweh's house, and for all that was laid out for the house to repair it. That there were not made for Yahweh's house cups of silver, snuffers, basins, trumpets, any vessels of gold or vessels of silver, of the money that was brought into Yahweh's house. For they gave that to those who did the work, and repaired Yahweh's house with it. Moreover, they didn't demand an accounting from the men into whose hand they delivered the money to give to those who did the work, for they dealt faithfully. The money for the trespass offerings and the money for the sin offerings was not brought into Yahweh's house. It was the priests. Then Hazael king of Syria went up and fought against Gath, and took it. And Hazael set his face to go up to Jerusalem. Jehoash king of Judah took all the holy things that Jehoshaphat and Jehoram and Ahaziah, his fathers, kings of Judah, had dedicated, and his own holy things, and all the gold that was found in the treasures of Yahweh's house and of the king's house, and sent it to Hazael king of Syria, and he went away from Jerusalem. Now the rest of the acts of Joash, and all that he did, aren't they written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? His servants arose and made a conspiracy, and struck Joash at the house of Millo, on the way that goes down to Silo. For Jozachar the son of Shimath and Jehozabad the son of Shomer, his servants, struck him, and he died, and they buried him with his fathers in David's city, and Amaziah his son reigned in his place. 2 Kings chapter 13. In the 23rd year of Joash the son of Ahaziah, king of Judah, Jehoahaz the son of Jehu began to reign over Israel and Samaria for 17 years. He did that which was evil in Yahweh's sight, and followed the sins of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, with which he made Israel to sin. He didn't depart from it. Yahweh's anger burned against Israel, and he delivered them into the hand of Hazael king of Syria, and into the hand of Benhadad the son of Hazael continually. Jehoahaz begged Yahweh, and Yahweh listened to him, for he saw the oppression of Israel, how the king of Syria oppressed them. For he didn't leave to Jehoahaz of the people any more than 50 horsemen, and 10 chariots, and 10,000 footmen, for the king of Syria destroyed them and made them like the dust in threshing. Now the rest of the acts of Jehoahaz, and all that he did, and his might, aren't they written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel? Jehoahaz slept with his fathers, and they buried him in Samaria, and Joash his son reigned in his place. In the 37th year of Joash king of Judah, Jehoash the son of Jehoahaz began to reign over Israel and Samaria for 16 years. He did that which was evil in Yahweh's sight. He didn't depart from all the sins of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, with which he made Israel to sin, that he walked in them. Now the rest of the acts of Joash, and all that he did, and his might with which he fought against Amaziah king of Judah, aren't they written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Israel? Joash slept with his fathers, and Jeroboam sat on his throne. Joash was buried in Samaria with the kings of Israel. Now Elisha became sick with the illness of which he died, and Joash the king of Israel came down to him, and wept over him, and said, my father, the chariots of Israel and its horsemen. Elisha said to him, take bow and arrows, and he took bow and arrows for himself. He said to the king of Israel, put your hand on the bow, and he put his hand on it. Elisha laid his hands on the king's hands. He said, open the window eastward, and he opened it. Then Elisha said, shoot, and he shot. He said, Yahweh's arrow of victory, even the arrow of victory over Syria, for you will strike the Syrians in effect until you have consumed them. He said, take the arrows, and he took them. He said to the king of Israel, strike the ground, and he struck 3 times, and stopped. The man of God was angry with him, and said, you should have struck 5 or 6 times. Then you would have struck Syria until you had consumed it, but now you will strike Syria just 3 times. Elisha died, and they buried him. Now the bands of the Moabites invaded the land at the coming in of the year. As they were burying a man, behold, they saw a band of raiders, and they threw the man into Elisha's tomb. As soon as the man touched Elisha's bones, he revived, and stood up on his feet. Hazael king of Syria oppressed Israel all the days of Jehoahaz. But Yahweh was gracious to them, and had compassion on them, and favored them because of his covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and would not destroy them, and he didn't cast them from his presence as yet. Hazael king of Syria died, and Benhadad his son reigned in his place. Jehoash the son of Jehoahaz took again out of the hand of Benhadad the son of Hazael the cities which he had taken out of the hand of Jehoahaz his father by war. Joash struck him 3 times, and recovered the cities of Israel.